Now, the average number of tweets per day, over 150 million. The average number of photos that are uploaded to Facebook daily, well, 250 million. Bring the two together and one thing's for sure, you've got the user's attention within the social media world. No wonder then that brands are sitting up and taking notice, and a bunch of startups are even servicing this market. Rishank Chandavarkar tracks the trend for us.
Well, if you're on Facebook, there are a number of ads across your screen, some trying to sell you shoes, or cars, or even cute puppies. Clearly indicating that the corporates of the world want to keep in touch with you and the nearly 800 million users on Facebook alone. But just because we like the brand campaign, do we want to keep in touch with the company? Do we want to buy the brand? Or do we just want to be left alone chatting with our friends? Well, the answer to all these questions are being given by a number of startups who are telling marketers how their brand campaigns are doing on social networks. Let's take a look at how this really works. One step most corporates use is benchmarking, often the first step in the process. It's a step Chennai-based Unmetric has made it its core business. They license out a web application which is based on an algorithm that compares brand campaigns on social media platforms with other brands against parameters of engagement like posts and tweets versus geographies. In doing so, a customer can analyze his brand campaign which is benchmarked against a rival brand, and so the user engagement in a campaign can be measured effectively, rather than by just cheering about a large user fan base.
Best practices that the application algorithmically curates are across the sector from across geographies. So if you're a bank in North America, Unmetric might come back to you and say, hey, there's this amazing bank in Australia that's doing some rocking stuff on Facebook, and maybe you want to take a look because maybe it's relevant for your bank, and you could replicate some of that magic if you chose to.
Unmetric is an Analyze Yourself application in which benchmarking data of more than 3,000 brands worldwide is provided further on, and so an annual subscription model is used. The most basic model costs around $20,000 per year, and the most expensive package can cost around $60,000 per year with the most premium features. While benchmarking is extremely unique, remodeling customer relationship management or CRM for social media is Mumbai-based Locobuzz, which is also an application created to analyze and more specifically locate incoming tweets and Facebook posts from their exact location.
So for example, being able to look at a macro level, that is a city level where the buzz is coming from, and then digging down to individual tweets or bits of information is something which we have achieved, which is fairly unique. Secondly, we have integrated a very rich CRM into the system. So not only are we doing analytics, but we are also helping brands manage this buzz by interlinking various social media channels. So you would know a person A on Twitter, what he's saying about you, your competition, what he's talking on Facebook, on email, things like that.
By bringing in the location aspect, marketers can now address consumer grievances and what they like, giving Locobuzz a major advantage. Locobuzz's pricing model is simple. They license out their software to clients for either 6 months or a full year and charge on a monthly basis 25,000 rupees for the most basic and 1 lakh rupees for the most premium version. What's important to note is that there are almost no barriers to entry in this space, and so one way to scale and hold market share is to tie up with consulting firms. Vishal, realizing this, has already begun talks with TNS Global and AC Nielsen for a tie-up.
I think there is the mindset is, they are good with understanding this data and interpreting it rightly for their client. What we are good with is accumulating this data and presenting it in a form which saves a lot of time for them.
One of the most established players in this space is socialwavelength.com, a company started by Sanjay Mehta in 2009. In the last 3 years, Sanjay has been able to put together almost every element of monitoring and CRM together. But realizing that social media is still low priority for most corporates, Sanjay has adopted a services model, often customizing his services to the needs of the corporate.
We participate on various social media platforms on behalf of the brand, either in terms of simple conversations which can happen on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, blogs, whatever, or in between in the course of our engagement if anything specific needs to be done, such as perhaps building some Facebook applications or doing some media buys on Facebook or YouTube or things like that for the client. Those are of course charged extra based on a case to case.
Yet social wavelength still plays old school in the sense that they put in man-hours into analytics, unlike Locobuzz and Unmetric who use web applications. And hence in many ways their approach can best be described as social media outsourced. One big problem is that social media is rapidly evolving, and so the parameters of success or benchmarks are extremely blurred, especially to an old school player like Maruti Suzuki. Their Maruti Ritz page has already garnered 1 million users, but for large corporates like them, how much of this success has really translated into sales is still a big question mark.
You cannot have a direct correlation, I'm afraid, because direct correlation between sales and social media presence is probably difficult to gauge, because it's not the only thing which affects sales. So from the point of being aware, from awareness to consideration to mind share to market share, which is actually sales, we are looking at consideration figures and we measure them for each of our brands.
Taking the example of Maruti and most other brands in this space, it's clear that the real effectiveness of social media is in furthering brand value by customer engagement rather than calculating ROI. What creates more ambiguity is that professional talent within organizations is still coming to terms with this new beast called social media, and hence the sector is extremely challenging. A way out has been suggested by EBS Worldwide, a veteran in the digital marketing space, who believes that unless and until social media analytic companies integrate themselves with a client's entire market chain, they themselves will not be taken seriously.
You have to move up the value chain. You have to either partner or work with companies who manage the larger campaign, so that you are easily integrated, and B, you can get good pricing. The more verticalized your service offering is, the more easier it is for a client to really beat you down on price.
In short, if social media analysis companies want to be more relevant, they will have to be able to widen their addressable market. A few studies show that there are close to 2.4 billion social networking accounts registered and are expected to grow to about 4 billion by 2015. So there is no denying that there is a sea of opportunity to explore. But it's the conversion rate from engagement to sale that is key for most clients, and that's something startups in this space are no doubt spending sleepless nights on.
And with other social media platforms like Pinterest seeing a fair amount of traction, you can be sure that this is a space that's going to see a lot of activity in the next few months. We'll of course have our eyes peeled. But for now, let's take a break here on the show. But coming up, an interview with one of the UK's most prolific venture capitalists, Thomas Ho. That's after the break.